Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Sam here, and I'll be doing the video for January 15th, 2021. So in this video, I'd like to bring you one stock here that I'm looking at into next week. I do like things in this market that are a little bit off the beaten path in terms of where to focus for next week. The indexes right now, they did flush today, but they're trying to recover, but the setups that I looked at going into next week, they're not particularly great on the indexes. Now, I do still expect somewhat of a bullish start to the week because you have the inauguration coming up, et cetera, et cetera. But let's not take the indexes for granted. So, on your own, I would certainly advise that you look at three things: the SPX, which is the entire market; the RUT, which is the Russell, well, four things: the NDX, which is the NASDAQ, and the VIX, right? And if you have an idea of what those four things can do going into next week, it's going to give you an overwhelming perspective on the individual stocks. Right here, I don't think that the individual stocks are in charge of their own destiny necessarily. I think that it's really more of an index conversation. So I would definitely focus there. If you're a member, we've been talking about that in the nightly video and in the rooms. But for YouTube, I'd like to show you guys one stock that I'm looking at that has a very nice structure and is kind of outside of the beaten path of what's getting hit, which is market wide basically. And I'm really focusing into next week on genetic editing stocks or anything in the genetic space. So in this instance, we're going to be looking at NVTA, which does genetic testing. And very nice looking consolidation here on the weekly. You have this weekly consolidation where you've made this higher low on NVTA. And we've seen this pattern before. Here's your previous all-time high at 55.30.38. And if you project it across, that's what this dotted line is. So do you see how we got to the dotted line today? This is a big level. We try to break through it at the open, actually, but then you got flushed in the market and it wasn't able to. I think that and this isn't a bad market, right? The market's still down and this is still fighting and still perfectly structured. I think that in a good market, this thing's really going to go. So I'm looking for $60 here on NVTA. Just understanding that 55 is going to be a big level, but once you get above it, it's pretty much clear skies to 60. Okay, and you can see how cleanly that level comes in. It's the next target. So I do like this trade going into next week. Almost as long as the indexes don't fall apart, I do think this will do well. If they trade sideways, I think this does well. If they trade up, I think it does well. And if they trade nominally down, I still think it does well. It doesn't do well in a flush, right? So just be aware of that. Again, focus on the indexes. But this stock looks great to me, and I think you can play it into 60 pretty easily. So I'm looking for calls here, or put credit spreads at 55 or anywhere below 55 with a little bit of time to allow that to break out, or even a butterfly at 60. I think you can play this in almost any way. This signal is very, very strong, and whatever strategy you're comfortable with, I would initially look for 60, and then the next target after that would be 65. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful. We'll see you for the next one. Cheers.